Okay, we are live on YouTube whenever you're ready.
All righty. The day is January 20th. The time is approximately right now 3:05, and I'm going to call the Community Development meeting to order. And the first thing we would have invocation. And first, I'd like to welcome our new Councilmember Parker, who will also be a part of the committees from now on, right now, anyway. And I'm going to ask her, since she's new, to give us a short invocation.
Oh, geez, don't put me on the spot. I wasn't ready for that. Thank you for the welcome, but please, please, if you can do the invocation, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Well, it's something simple. You can, we just can bow our heads and we can say, Lord, just thank you for us being here in the number one more time, and give us the fortitude that we can do things that's pleasing in your sight, that we are here to represent the community and the residents of the city of Charleston. And let us be able to do what is right and pleasing to you. All these acts in your name, amen. So we'll move on to items B8. There's any person from the public that we have public participation?
Julia is the client for number 1 on the call with us today.
I do not see Taylor's name. It's Patrick Carlson. Is Patrick Carlson a member of the staff of the
He
city?
is, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Okay, as long as the staff.
Okay.
So
no
okay. So we go on to number B, approval of the minutes from December 18th, 2021. May I have a motion? If everyone have read the minutes. So moved. Did I get a second from someone?
I'll second.
Okay, it was moved and second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
They opposes, the ayes have it. Then we coming down to new business, a consideration of a resolution certifying property located at 5094 Shepherd Street, Charleston County, and the TMS number is there as an abandoned building site under section 12-2067-160 of the South Carolina Code. Memorandum and draft resolution attached. And I hope everyone have gotten a chance to read the attachment. Who's going to explain that to if they have any questions? Julia?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Gianna, you want to take it or you want me to?
Anyone?
No, ma'am. I was just letting him know that you were going to take care of it.
Okay. Well, if you can see my screen here, this is the crosstown where my mouse is running toward the bridge to Mount Pleasant. And this is the property we're talking about right here. It's on the point at the crosstown. The applicant has sent us a notice of intent.
Julia?
Yes, sir.
September clock.
I'm sorry.
September clock.
My apologies. It's September
That's all
Clark.
right.
So the applicant has submitted a notice of intent to seek out the abandoned tax credit. Part of this, they have to show that the property has been sitting abandoned for at least 5 years. They provided a power utility notice showing, and just so you know, in the memo from Chip McQueenie, there is a typo here. It has been disconnected since June 10th of 2002, not June 10th of 2022. So they have satisfied the requirements in order to apply for this tax credit. So with this resolution, they would take this to the Department of Revenue to work out the tax credit on the income tax portion of their billing. So that's what's before you today, the resolution to acknowledge that this is a satisfactory application for the abandoned tax credit per the statute.
Okay, if anyone have any questions, I think Councilmember Sacrum and myself, we know of this property. Do we have any questions from anyone? So I think we need a motion on this to proceed.
Move for approval.
Second.
It was moving second. All vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. So this has been approved. Now we go into item number D, which is old business, under old business. Accessory dwelling, which is known by the ADU, and it was only for discussion only so far. And Ms. Johnson, you want to start it off, I think?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilmember Mitchell and members of the City Committee of City Council. I would like Matt Ojala to share with the City Committee of City Council some reconnaissance, is what I call it, basically research on ADUs that have occurred across our country, across the US. I shared some of that with you all on council floor a few weeks ago, but Matt actually did the research. So I just wanted you to have that information as you consider the ADU ordinance once again. Thank you, Matt.
Sure. Thanks, Gianna. And I imagine you'll provide some more context as to where we're thinking this may go going forward, or what we're contemplating. So following the passage of the ADU ordinance in the summer of 2020, and after observing the lack of ADUs being permitted in the city, we looked to the experience of other cities around the country. And what we found is that it is typical for ADU permitting to be slow out of the gate, which it has here in Charleston. As you probably recall, we haven't had any ADUs permitted since the ordinance went into effect in 2020. So we looked at reports from AARP, who's a major proponent of ADUs, from UC Berkeley, from Urban Land Institute, and others, to look at the experience of these other cities such as Austin, Denver, Seattle, Portland, and others. And they show that the slow start is likely the result of a few key issues. So a few reasons why ADUs are slow out of the gate can include issues with the zoning ordinance, parking requirements, setback requirements, issues in terms of the square footage allowed, and other restrictions in each jurisdiction can make it onerous for the private homeowners to proceed with the ADU. And some of these cities have had to tweak their zoning ordinance in order to make it more suitable for the homeowner to go forward with the ADU. Financing has been another area of concern. So general lack of capital and banks being unfamiliar or uncertain about ADUs have made them wary to make loans to homeowners in certain cities. And over time, as there's more education and awareness about accessory dwelling units, the cities have seen the increase in permitting. Awareness amongst homeowners is another issue. It takes time to build awareness with homeowners to just know that they have the opportunity before them to do an ADU. And over time, as homeowners have learned about the opportunity, have seen others in their neighborhood go forward with an ADU, they may start to feel more comfortable with the prospect of doing their own. I know here in Charleston, I think we could have increased awareness. We did it over the summer. There's a good deal of press reminding homeowners about the opportunity before them. And then lastly, expertise. Homeowners don't have the expertise that a developer might. So creating an ADU for a homeowner is a big, costly decision, and they need hand-holding throughout that process. And seeing others do it in their community may make them feel like, oh, I have the capacity to do that as well. So again, this has kind of been the experience in other cities around the country. It's hard to pinpoint exactly any one reason, but this confluence of issues do make it that ADUs are still out of the gate. And Charleston is unique, though, in our ordinance having the affordability requirement, effectively requiring the ADU to be affordable at 80% AMI or below in perpetuity. And so I can't say that I've surveyed every single jurisdiction's ordinances to see if there might be other affordability requirements that are out there. So they may exist, but I was not able to find another city that requires an ADU to be affordable outside of Chicago. That was the one example that I did find, they recently approved an ADU ordinance. I spoke with ULI Chicago, who led the effort in Chicago to have that ordinance approved. The difference, though, is that in Chicago, they allow multiple accessory dwelling units on a site, and it's only the second ADU on the site that is required to be affordable, and their requirement says it must be at 60% AMI over a period of 30 years. And just also, what we've learned in our experience is that it takes time to understand what exactly may be preventing homeowners from deciding to move ahead with an ADU. Again, we had a lot of interest from homeowners over the summer when we had some press in the Post and Courier and other local news outlets. And Gianna and myself and others were bombarded with phone calls, trying to learn more about the opportunity, and specifically interested in the incentive that had been discussed. And that incentive was a potential $20,000 incentive to go towards the cost of construction of an ADU. But that funding would be limited, and given all of the discussion, we have yet to put that program forward yet. And in those discussions that we had with homeowners, affordability restrictions was a major concern. And we also heard from our local AIA chapter, who's been in close contact with homeowners considering accessory dwelling units on their properties, and they've echoed those concerns about the affordability requirement as well. So those are some of the conversations and research that we've had within our department, and I'll turn it back over to Gianna.
Hey, Matt, I have a question. In fact, the day when I was my skin person, she was talking about doing an accessory dwelling unit, and she's a little confused about the process, the incentives and how that worked. I tried to tell her, but she is getting ready to order her unit from Home Depot, believe it or not. And she can purchase, I think, about 300 square feet for about $23,000. That's just a shell, of course. She's going to have to put in the water and all that other kind of stuff. But I'm going to have to give her someone to talk to, because she needs someone to help her walk through the process. And the second part is, okay, to me, for those communities that do not have an affordable provision, because I think you said Chicago was the only one, okay? My question goes back to Councilman Appel's issue. With the free market, okay, with the free market, are any of those units affordable, are being given to people at 80% and below median in those areas where they don't have an affordability provision? I think that's the question for me. Going back to Councilman Appel's discussion about letting the free market handle the affordability. And I just want to find out from someone, anyone on this call, including Councilman Appel in particular, where ADUs on the free market were available to people 80% and below market without an affordable provision. Because that's the question for me that I need answered.
I think Councilman Sackman, you had your hands up?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Chair. I don't want to interrupt. I feel like if Councilman Gregory's asking a question, we can get that question answered. But I think having a discussion about the affordability component to the ADU is worthy. And I'll ask my question after someone answers Councilman Dudley's question.
Okay. Councilmember Appel, I think you want to say something? I don't know if I see your hands up or not. Couldn't see.
I'd be happy to offer some comments, but perhaps Councilman Gregory's question was first directed at staff, and then I'll maybe follow up from there. Or I just want to be respectful.
Sure. And I was going to ask either Christopher or Robert Summerfield to maybe speak to that. I think the thought was in not having affordability restrictions because of the size and type of home it is, that it would lend to lower rents for homeowners. And I see you shaking your head. I had my doubts on that as well, but I think some of what we have said and what we've indicated or what has been indicated is that it would naturally occur because of the size of the units. But Christopher, did you want to comment on that further?
I think just from the standpoint that our point was that, let's just say in my backyard, I had a 500 square foot ADU. I'm going to not be able to charge as much for that as the market rates that are being charged in the large complexes on Needing Street or wherever they might be. And so the idea is that just in itself, by creating that ADU in a backyard location, for example, as opposed to in a amenitized bigger building, it's going to be more affordable. I think it's a very good question to ask in those cities that, Matt had researched, what percentage might have been 80% or less. And I wonder if some of those cities might have that data. I don't know. But I'm absolutely convinced that by virtue of the very nature of an ADU, that it makes the unit more affordable. And equally important is it makes the main unit that it's built behind more affordable, because that individual gets more money to help them with their mortgage. And so let's say they're on a fixed income or something, if they can get this grant money and get a loan to build this, then they're going to get some money towards their mortgage that makes their house more affordable long-term as well. So it's two levels of affordability.
One second, one at a time. Councilman Gregory.
I'm just saying that's all theoretical, though. What I need to know in order for me to act on this, okay? Because if I'm with Appel, if the free market, okay, if the free market can produce affordability, I'm all for it. I just haven't seen any situation where it has, and I'd hate for us to be the experiment.
Okay, Councilman Sacrum, I think I see his hands next.
Thank you, Chair. And I don't want to steal Ross's thunder on this, but the evidence, Dudley, is look across the nation and look at the ADU ordinances. No cities have done this. And I would just suggest, maybe we don't have to be the guinea pig, but we could put the genie back in the bottle if it does pop out. Let's try it like this. I think Christopher is right. The sheer fact that they're so small does create affordability just by the nature of the market. Now, to your evidence that you need, Dudley, California, Charlotte, Atlanta, Asheville, it's up the road in Asheville. They do all of this and they don't have any market caps on affordability. So there are places that have done this, and I would just ask staff, send us a list of places where it is being done with no affordability requirements. And to the second point that Christopher made, that I think Ross and I will probably share, is looking at strictly through the eyes of affordability is one thing. Making sure that you look at the whole homeowner, helping the homeowner with his or her mortgage payment, that's also an added benefit to this. So that when you talk about affordability, it doesn't have to be that unit, but it could be, the primary homeowner's main residence being able to rent that ADU out could reduce their mortgage payment substantially. So I think there's two ways to look at it. I'd like to see more evidence of cities that have done it, but I do think it's out there.
Well, I'd like to make a statement too. Believe in giving a person an open market and thinking they're going to do affordability housing. I don't see it here in the city of Charleston since I've been here, since the market have went to the sky. I have not seen them building it. If something is not in place, I advise them or ask them to do so.
That's inevitably what he would say. So yes.
Yeah, they're not doing it. They're not doing it.
All right. Well, let me know if you need anything else, but I'll work on this now.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
I think you might be on not mute. What's the opposite of mute?
I don't know.
You're live.
But
That's a hot mic.
Yeah, that's my sense on it. I have not seen it doing. We are doing this to try to help the homeowners to be able to assist in paying their mortgage or whatever the case may be, to live comfortably and stuff like that. But I never believed in giving a person an open door, open mark, open, they should do whatever they want to do. And that's not what it was designed for when we first started talking about it. And we are trying to help homeowners who are paying so much in their mortgage, because things have escalated here so much in the city of Charleston. But giving a person is just the open door, I don't think it's going to be affordable. I don't, people saying it, and that's just speculation to me, that it's going to be affordable. I don't think it's going to happen that way unless something is done. And if we're going to give incentive, if that comes to petition, that we're going to give them incentive of 20,000 or whatever the incentive is going to be, then I think you should have something there too, because we're giving up money also if that happens. So that's my take on it, and that's the way I look at it, and that's where I'm being since dealing with housing all this time. We're talking about it, but being in housing all these years, for over 35 years, working in housing, I don't see it. Just giving a person an open door to do whatever they want to do. I'll say, oh yeah, we're going to do affordable housing. No, they're not going to do it. They're going to try to get as much as they possibly can, and it's going to be up in the ceiling. And I see it every day, and I think everybody on the council is seeing how much we are fighting for affordability. And it doesn't happen. So I don't know, I must don't give a person open range. That's just my take on it. That's just the way I look at it. And from looking and working in housing all these years, seeing it every day. Anyone else have anything to say? I think Appel have something, I believe. I think he was waiting.
I think I could scrounge up some things to say about this topic. I appreciate it, Chairman Mitchell. So to Councilman Gregory's point, there's been a lot of really good research that's out there about how ADUs help drive housing affordability, especially out of California. There's been major state level legislation that has essentially forced local governments to relax their zoning regulations to enable more ADUs as a way to address California's housing affordability crisis. And, I think that there's a lot of science, there's a lot of study and analysis that supported that legislative push. In other words, state of California, ADUs are at the top of their list when it comes to mechanisms to drive down, housing costs. So there is some good information out there. And, to Councilman Mitchell's point, I think it's important for us to keep in mind that we're not talking about development in the city of Charleston generally. We're talking about 600 square feet in regular citizens' backyards. We're not talking about apartment complexes and things of that nature. I'm not talking about a full-on libertarian land use environment here. This is a situation where regular people can put some additional housing on their property, and as Councilman Saccharine pointed out, to help potentially, enable these folks to stay in their property. And I think you can make a very straightforward equity argument about why we ought to be doing this. The cost of living has gotten more expensive, property taxes have gotten more expensive. If you're, an African-American family that's been living on the peninsula for a long time, being able to drop an ADU in your backyard and having that extra revenue allow you to stay in your home or to allow you to do what you need to do to be more secure from a financial standpoint. It's a great thing to be able to do. And at the end of the day, and Matt did a great job of pointing this out, it's complicated to navigate the development review process generally. Whether you're doing a subdivision, whether you're doing an addition to your house, whether you're doing an ADU. So we have to find a way to make it easier for people to get from concept to approval to getting the building built. And this affordable restriction that we're talking about, it's just going to be a very onerous thing for somebody to do. You would have to hire a lawyer to put together a covenant, and they'd have to send it to Chip, and Chip would have to look at it and give you comments, and then your lender might be like, why are you filing this thing on the property? It's just this complicated thing that we're asking people to have to navigate. And as we have seen time and time again, the more sophisticated you are, and I've heard Councilman Waring talk a lot about this very, very persuasively. The more, the rich, sophisticated people don't have any problem navigating the development review process. It's regular people that can't do it because it's hard and it's complicated and it's onerous. And when you're talking about a 500 square foot, unit in your backyard, and you're weighing the value of that versus the value of having to navigate this, labyrinth of regulation, it's oftentimes not a winning prospect, and then people just kind of give up and go away. This whole idea of we haven't gotten the word out. We don't need to get the word out if we put into place something that will work for people. Let me give you an example. Did the city of Charleston ever publicize, short-term rentals? Hey, there's this website called Airbnb. You can make a whole bunch of money doing it. No, people that caught on and spread like wildfire because it was something easy for people to do, for them to make money and realize some value out of their homes. If we can make the environment ripe for these ADUs to pop up out of the ground, we will see them without us having to do much work at all to promote them. I'm envisioning a world where we have firms that develop, that new businesses get formed in the city of Charleston that specialize in planning, designing, building, managing ADUs for people in their backyards. It becomes a one-stop shop where, it's a turnkey solution for people. We just have to create the environment and the ecosystem that makes it easier for people to do this kind of stuff. And again, we're not talking about totally just letting the forces of the free market run wild over the landscape. We're talking about a very limited specific issue here of accessory dwelling units in people's backyards. And, this is some low hanging fruit here. And, it's something we're seeing all around the country. And I think it would be wonderful if Charleston got in the game. I think it could be a real game changer for us here in the city. So thank you all for the time.
Okay, I really don't have a problem with it, with ADU. I'm just saying with the open door policy on it, I just have a problem with that. When we are trying to assist people in saving their home and staying in their home, I just have a little problem with just giving a person to do whatever they want to do. When we are talking about affordability and trying to hold on to affordability, I just don't see it. We are still speculating, and if we're going to give incentive, it seems like we should have something in place. And I know they was talking about perpetuity. We were planning on taking that out as perpetuity. And we came back and talked about the 40 years, and then we came back and talked about the 30 years, So I think it should be something there. We do it all over. We was doing it all over the city of Charleston. And the city of Charleston is not California. I heard you be talking about California. We heard you talk about Chicago. We are not there. Not yet. We are not there. And I just don't see it. And I just have a problem with it even if I want to build it in my yard, I have a problem with it, with someone just giving me an open door and we say affordability. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. People talking that and speculating, but it's not going to happen. People are looking for just making money, and the people that really need it with the affordability so far, the ADU, some of them might not even get it because they might can't afford it anyway. But the other people who can get it, they're going to be making this money, and we're talking about it's having an open door with it. Oh yeah, go ahead and rent. You're going to rent it affordable. Yeah, I'm going to rent it affordable. There's nothing there telling them they're going to do whatever they want to do. It's going to be a big money making procedure on it, and I can see that coming out the door. I think I see a couple of hands. I saw Councilman Gregory. I saw Councilman Sacrum.
And Councilmember Waring.
I'll give Councilman Waring first because he haven't speak yet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And number one, I want to thank Councilman Appel and everybody on here who agreed to the deferral so we can kind of vet this thing out a little bit. I actually think we can do both. I think we can come up with a package to incentivize people if they want to do affordable units. And if people want to do market units, they could do that as well. I don't think it has to be an either or. One of the things we had talked about on the floor, Councilmember Pell, was when you build this ADU in the backyard and we rent it out, how's that going to be taxed? Is that going to be taxed at the 6% or is it going to be taxed at the 4%? I think it'd be 6, but I tell you what, it sure would be good if we could, from affordability standpoint, get some sort of agreement with county council to say, hey, if you do a unit and it's going to be, you know, at 80% of mean income or whatever, you get to do it at the 4% assessed rate. If we do a 2-bedroom unit, the city will put X amount as a grant in that unit towards the construction to keep it affordable. If somebody wants to do a market rate unit, they can forgo all of that and say, you know what, I tell you what, I'll put 100% of my money to build it. And they can go ahead and build a private sector piece, and we can have dual tracks working. Some people are just dedicated to affordable housing. My father and I were. We did a whole subdivision and didn't get 1 penny of supplement from federal or state government. Now, the problem with that is we sold them at good prices, but when those people turned around to sell, we didn't have the deed restrictions that Ms. Johnson and her team came up with years later, so that all those houses are now market rate housing. But I think we can incentivize both. And I also think Councilmember Pell is getting to, and I think Councilmember Gregory to some extent, somehow we need to turn our process into being customer friendly. It's almost, the chamber did a study a couple of years, it was before COVID, to see how long does it take a single family house or an apartment or an office building to get approved through North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, and the city of Charleston. And I think city of Charleston led a long way. I think it's like 18 months to get something approved. I mean, that's just crazy. That's just crazy, man. In particular, for the city of Charleston to go and build an affordable housing project, they have to go through that same process. Somehow, if we take a pride, well, this is Charleston, we're different. No, we're not. We're trying to build. I grant you in the historic district, we take that process, West Ashley, James Island, Johns Island, out of the historic district all over. And there's something wrong about that because that probably increases more costs than maybe one single effort of the construction process. So I think instead of having a tug of war, arm wrestling contest, if we come up with the right incentive package, maybe some people in the private sector say, hey, for that, yeah, I'll do it on a subsidized basis. And some people can throw their hands up and say, you know what, no, I'd rather, there's a certain market I'm trying to attract to my backyard. And I want to go after the high dollar medical student or something like that. So I think we can do both.
Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Waring, thank you for that point, and that segues into my comments. What we were creating is that incentive package for those who preferred affordability. Can we mute if we're not talking? Because I'm hearing feedback.
Yeah, I'm getting the feed.
My computer. And so in addition to the $20,000 that Matt mentioned, that would be a grant given at CO, we were also looking to provide design for the ADU. We are, I would say, getting much better at getting folks through our approval process. We're working on that every day. We have Chloe Suber, who works as our concierge in addition to her other tasks. We need a person specifically for that, but we had a package whereby we would provide the design, provide the funding. We had spoken with lenders who were willing to lend for ADUs because there is that cost. We did not find yet, Councilmember Gregory, the $23,000 bill, but I'm certainly going by Home Depot when I leave the office today to find out about that one. So we literally had a package for those who were interested. We wanted to make the process seamless. We have affordability restrictions prepared so that it would not be onerous, if you will, on those folks who would decide they wanted to build that ADU. And our thought in the more recent discussion we had between my department and the planning department was that maybe we do offer both as an option and see where it goes and see how it is used. We would still offer that package. We have an application. We've allowed legal to review that application. So we've literally been working this. And as Matt indicated in his comments, when the article was published in the Post and Courier, we literally were bombarded with folks that were interested in this process, interested in participating in the ADU initiative. The only drawback at the time was the fact that it had to remain for perpetuity, which was a part of the ordinance. And I would just remind you all that what is before you today is an amended ordinance that we presented to Planning Commission, which they supported, but we wanted to, and were required, of course, to bring it back to you all for this discussion and to approve it for it to go into final form. So that is where it is right now. What Chip sent, or what we sent as part of the package that Chip prepared in concert with Lee Batchelder, along with the memo, basically describes that. But the primary change that is in the current ordinance is that we currently have an affordability period of 30 years attached, because we were looking at having that covenant of affordability presented as part of the ADU. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification. Going back to Councilman Waring in terms of dual, because right now people can already do an ADU if it's for grandma, grandpa, etc. Am I correct? Okay, so there's already a product out there that can be used to develop an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. And there are no income restrictions, if I'm not mistaken on that one. There aren't any?
Right. If you're not renting
Correct.
it for remuneration, there's no restrictions.
Correct.
Okay. So is there any way for us, going back to Councilman Waring, to sort of expand that one to not necessarily be for a family member, et cetera, and allow those to be able to go to market rate, but still keep an affordability track? I agree with Councilman Waring. Why can't we do both?
I have put that forward to our legal counsel, Chip, who prepared this. And I don't think Chip is on the call today, but I did ask, in light of us having this meeting and this discussion today, to determine how the ordinance could be fashioned to allow both. And so I am waiting for a response. I just sent him that email earlier today. So Julia, I don't know if you have any comments with regard to that, but we can certainly get back with the CD committee on that, along with any other additional information you may require.
Can I just do a follow-up? I mean,
Sure.
the California comparison to me is California is totally different animal. I mean, they have an unbelievable homeless. They've got to find whatever they can do to try to provide affordable units. But I'd still like to know if we can get that data for those communities that currently have a functioning ordinance for ADUs with no affordable restrictions, whether or not any of those units, okay, are in fact going, given the market, going to people 80% and below. That's just, for me, that's just a simple question and search. And I think it would really buttress Councilman Appel's argument. Because if their free market, okay, is producing affordable units, then we need to jump on it, to me. But we're still talking theory, speculation, okay, and no fact.
Councilmember Mitchell, Councilmember Saccharin's hand is up, Matt's hand is up, and then once they're done, I'd like to make comments, sir. You're muted, Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, I'll go to
Thank you.
Councilman Sacrum, and afterwards, then we go to Matt.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, wanted to just say two things. One, to Councilman Waring's suggestion, if we can do a dual track, I think that's wonderful. The other clarification I need, Gianna, from you is the $20,000. So if I'm a homeowner, I go out to Home Depot, I purchase that, that small ADU, it cost me $30,000. Do I get that $20,000 at the end of the build? Or how does that process work? I'm trying to understand from a homeowner's perspective.
Absolutely. You would get that once you get a certificate of occupancy. We want you to have a built unit ready for rent before we
Okay.
will release those dollars to you.
So if the building cost me 30 and saying there's another 30 for all the infrastructure, we're at 60, I'm going to get $20,000.
Correct.
So amortized over like 4 years, that's a savings of like $400 a month.
Absolutely.
So that would make sense for me to maybe go that route. So I understand. I think there is opportunity for a dual approach to this, but I still feel, to Councilman Pell's point, the sheer fact that these are 400, 500 square foot places, the market will dictate that they are going to be affordable. Now, how affordable, I don't know, but Dudley's laughing. That's all right, Dudley. Feel free to laugh. That's all right. But anyway, thank you for the
Matt,
comment.
you want to go before I go?
Yeah, so I think Councilmember Gregory's question is a really important one. And I don't have data from around the country in terms of the different cities, what the income levels are for households in the ADUs, except I did find one study in Southern California amongst local governments in Southern California. And what they showed, their study shows that there is a mix between extremely low income, moderate income, and above moderate income households that are residing in the ADUs. So I can forward that study to everyone so you can see that firsthand. And we can also do some additional legwork to see if there's more info, because like you said, Charleston is in California, and more information would be helpful.
We're not far from North Carolina.
Councilmember Mitchell, you are muted, sir.
I was talking to myself. That's on you.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah,
Councilman Appel's hands up.
Councilmember Appel's hand is up.
we'll move on. We'll move on after Councilman Appel. We'll move on.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we're definitely not California. Our waves are nowhere nearly as good. We can't find a decent burrito around here like we got out there. We're not the same as California, but I would say that we are becoming more California-esque when it comes to our housing prices. There is a house around the corner from me in Burns Downs that is on the market right now for $800,000. Okay. That's the kind of stuff you were seeing around Silicon Valley about a decade ago. There will be $1 million homes in Burns Downs within a few years. Okay. So when I say we're getting like California, I mean that from a real estate appreciation perspective. And we're not on the same trajectory as them. I mean, they've got industry, they've got it's a different deal out there. But there are similarities here with our housing affordability problem. And I heard Councilman Waring, I actually listened to your Quentin interview yesterday. Quentin sent it to me, and you were mentioning how some of the homes in your district were going from 200 to 300 to 400. I'm telling you guys, that is a freight train that is moving, and it has nothing to do with us. That is the market. That is the Federal Reserve. That's interest rates. That's stuff that we can't control. So we as a city have got to find ways to find affordability wherever we can get it. And the stuff, y'all have heard me say this over and over again, the stuff that Gianna and her department does through the LIHTC deals and the federal and state subsidized programs and the things we've done with our bond issues and our mixed use workforce housing programs. These are all great things. The stuff that the Housing Authority has done over the years, all great. But guys, it's nowhere near the magnitude of what we're going to need to solve the problem. There's just no way the government can solve our way out of this problem unless there's a revolution in this country that completely turns around the way we do things here. It's just a resource standpoint. We just don't have nearly the amount of resources relative to the scale and magnitude of the problem. So my opinion is just that it's not about getting rid of what we're doing already. It's about supplementing it where it makes sense, elsewhere, because we're going to need to come up with new ideas and new approaches. So that's a real long-winded way of saying I have no problem with the dual track, where we let sort of you have a free market path, but if you want to take advantage of some of the benefits that the city has to offer in exchange for that, you have to do some deed restricted affordability. No problem with that. We already do that with various other mechanisms within our city. So I think that's a natural path forward. And, maybe someone smart somewhere could study the city of Charleston and these two tracks, and we could learn a lot more over the next, say 5-10 years or so as to how, housing affordability works and what doesn't. And we can just continue to improve our processes as we move forward. So thank y'all.
Thank you, Councilmember Saccharin, and we don't disagree with you. We see the numbers. We're studying those and we see the changes already in many communities. Councilmember Mitchell, what I'd recommend to the committee is one, that we bring back data for you all at the next city committee of city council meeting to address those questions that were brought forward by Councilmember Gregory. We can also then bring forth a dual ordinance, if you will, or an ordinance that reflects a dual tract that then I can confer with both Lee Batchelder and Chip McQueenie on, so that we actually present that to you in written form so that you all can see that. And then you have the full breadth of the information that you have brought forward or that we've discussed today on this meeting. Councilmember Mitchell, are you comfortable with
Yes,
that?
so what we'll do, we'll just defer this item until we come back, and then you bring those information, and then we'll go from that point.
Mr. Mitchell, Councilman Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, I just want to go back to something that Councilman Appel said regarding, African Americans whose family owned property, and this ADU would be beneficial, et cetera. This would be beneficial across the board because there are just as many non-African Americans who are suffering from the same type issues. So I don't want this to be cast, as an African American issue to solve. I think this is an issue to solve across the board. I knew you were just using that as an example, but I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that this would benefit across the board.
Yes, I understand, Councilman Gregory. We want to make it a broad statement because we don't want people to come up to say that we are looking at one. We don't need no more problems, what I'm saying. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Councilman Waring, and then we'll move on.
Thank you. Yeah, one of the things in your incentive package, Michelle Johnson, is you made mention of to get the money at CO. I think that can be improved upon, because if I struggle and get this thing out with my money, I'm gonna say, well, you know what, man, I'm gonna rent it out to whoever I want to rent it to. If the city helps me along the way, I would think it'd be, one suggestion would be, once the building gets to be 50% completed, then half the money's released, and then at final inspection, they get the balance. I wouldn't even say CO, and I'll tell you why. Because there's a period of time between final inspections, longer than you think, and our building inspection department being able to get a CO. I just went through that with trying to help a constituent who had all their final inspections and trying to get in before Christmas. And I can't tell you how long it took them to get the right. They just moved in and took the chance of being fined. It shouldn't be like that. So once all, our building inspectors are going by, seeing this building go up. So once they get to the point to where they can close the walls, I'd award, if it's 20,000, I'd award 10,000. And when they get all their final inspections, plumbing, heat in there, etc., I'd give them the balance of the 10. Because let me tell you, when you get to the point where you've gotten all your final inspection from all the building inspectors, the money has been spent. So I think we want to help them along the way in construction, as opposed to letting them get 100% completed and then trying to get the money from the city.
Okay, we can look at that, Councilmember Ware.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if we have any other questions, so we'll have this deferred until the next meeting. And I'll get with Ms. Johnson and we'll see if we have to call a special meeting, whatever case may be. Once all the information is acquired, then we go from that point.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
If you don't have any other questions,
No, sir.
I can ask someone for adjournment.
I see Chloe here. Chloe has some maps on here. Is she on the agenda for new business or something?
No, sir. I just
No.
think that's her background.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're going to talk about settlements. Okay. I saw an unbelievable presentation, by the way. Amber shared with me some stuff that you guys are doing in planning. Unbelievable. Can't wait until you unveil it.
Yeah, we'll have Chloe on here another time.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
All right,
Have a
bye-bye.
good evening.
Bye-bye.
We stay adjourned.